And we're back for the 8 p.m. block of the Big Ten live show. We're very excited. We're just going to mute myself there. Fun times. Okay. So we are starting our 8 p.m. block for the Big Ten live show. And that is going to be kind of how we do it every week. We'll have Mark do 6 to 8, and then either myself or another host, maybe Corey or another big one of the Big Ten media people will be able to host the 8 p.m. block afterwards. So appreciate everybody doing that. We do want to thank Shoelace Sooner. I don't know if he's hopped over yet, but it's currently all Shoelace right now. Shoelace has given a $9.99 super chat. Shoelace has given a $4.99 super chat, and Shoelace has become a new member. Let's not let Shoelace be alone on this. Come on, guys. Let's get send a super chat, even if it's $1.99, or become a new member. If you become a YouTube member, then you also get all the perks of that. Emojis. You will get the link to the Patreon, to the Discord chat. And some other fun things. So let's support Mark Rogers. He does a lot for us. He does a lot, for the community and making Voice of College Football what it is. So let's support all of the efforts to do that. Well, Jason, I'm giving you a week off, man. You've given us so much, and we appreciate you just being here, and obviously you're a YouTube member too. So go Blue. And so I am going to put the link here to call in, but we also have some topics that I want to cover first. So the first topic that I wanted to hit, and just a reminder, so my name is John Diadamo, formerly One Scoop John. I host the 8 p.m. block of Big Ten Live, as well as Michigan Wolverines Live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. And this Wednesday at 5 p.m., we're going to be doing a special episode about the who made the Leaders and Best Awards. We will be handing out the Leaders and Best Awards for the spring game. And if you are on Patreon or you're a YouTube member, you are going to get input in that. So what I'm going to be doing is, in our Discord chat, I'm going to be asking everybody, who do you think the leaders and best were of the spring game? So that way, anybody who's a Patreon member, anybody who's a YouTube member, and they're part of the Discord chat, they're going to get input in who we give an award to. So that's a good way of kind of getting the community involved in what we're doing. So the first thing, we do have some recruiting news. Just today, I believe, or yesterday, James Peoples from Texas is committed to Ohio State. 4-star running back out of Texas. Looks like he's the 7th commitment of the class. Joins 5-star wide receiver Jeremiah Smith as the second skill position player. So it looks like, yet again, Ohio State is going to have weapons on the offensive side of the ball. He did pick Ohio State over Texas, Houston, and Oklahoma. I think it's interesting because Texas, as we know, has Quinn Ewers and is about to have Arch Manning. And you'd think that you'd want to be a part of that type of offense, but I guess not. And so James Peoples going to the Ohio State University. Those who are Ohio State fans, let us know what you think about that. According to some rankings, this puts them, so according to On3, this puts Ohio State actually ahead of Michigan, which is interesting. I believe on 247, it's still Michigan as third, but maybe they haven't updated it yet. People in chat, be interesting. Antoine, Ron Bellamy needs to be gone, in my opinion. Michigan needs to upgrade at wide receiver coach. We also need to expand the route tree. Yeah, the routes that were run in the spring game were pretty basic, which makes what Peyton O'Leary did even more impressive. Peyton O'Leary balled out in the spring game, and I understand that they didn't give Cornelius Johnson and Rowan Wilson a ton of reps just because we know what they can do. But the fact that Peyton O'Leary did so well, keeping in consideration exactly what Antoine is saying here, because you're correct, it was very basic. And we were hearing reports that J.J. McCarthy was pushing the coaches for more advanced deep passing route concepts. It could be the case that we just they're holding that. And listen, they held a bunch of plays last time for the Ohio State game, right? They held a bunch of plays for the Penn State game. They held a bunch of plays for Ohio State and for the Big Ten championship. And so, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And Rod Farva's right. You don't want to show too much in the spring game. And that's why I think what Peyton O'Leary did is extremely impressive. He was given very simplistic routes, which, remember, you're going against the Michigan defense. It might be half of the Michigan defense, and some people might be out with injuries, but you're still going up against probably the best defense that you're going to have until late in the season that you're going to be facing, because we're not facing some of them this year. So it's going to be Penn State, Ohio State, and then potentially if Iowa makes it to the Big Ten championship game. So we would love to have some new callers tonight. I'd love to hear from some of the people who are in chat a lot, but they don't call in as much. Call the show tonight. You can keep your camera off. I don't care if you have camera on, camera off. We usually do a panel. So we'll have a couple of people call in, and sometimes they have their camera on and sometimes they have their camera off. We'd love to have people call the show. Graw called the show last time, first time caller, Penn State caller. I know Antoine, I would love to hear Antoine call in. That would be fun. I think we would have a great time. Okay. So next up on the recruiting news, Jaden Davis, and we already spent an hour and a half on this the other day, but Jaden Davis commits to Michigan. So according to 247 Sports, this puts Michigan at third, and I don't know if James Peoples have been added yet to that ranking or not, but I would argue that given the fact that we've got a couple of key players who are going to be committing next, in particular Channing Goodwin, who plays with Jaden Davis at Providence Day. He's a 4-star wide receiver. Also Jordan Shipp, not as much of a lock, but still looking pretty strong for Michigan. 4-star offensive lineman Andrew Sprague, and then 4-star wide receiver and athlete combo Marion Stewart, who outright said that Michigan's at the top of his list and that Jaden Davis coming would increase Michigan's chances. So those are 4 recruits who I think are fairly solid to Michigan. And I think Jaden Davis, he got his moment in the spotlight, right? 5-star quarterback. And now you're going to start seeing, I think, the floodgates open little by little where, each of these players is going to want their moment in the spotlight too. That's just how it goes. When you're a 4-star, 5-star player, you're going to want to do the Twitter thing. You're going to want to go on to ESPN or at least have like a live stream going on, have a FaceTime with Jim Harbaugh or whatever floats your boat, and reveal your top 5 and then have your own moment in the spotlight. But I think that all 4 of these players could very likely come to the University of Michigan. We do have some saltiness going on in the chat about Notre Dame. So Michael Campbell, call in. We'd love to hear from you. You have been very enthusiastic about talking about Notre Dame, including on the Michigan spring game live stream, and we would love to have you on the panel today. So if you want to, you don't have to have a camera on, but call in. We'd love to have you on the show. Daniel, of course, not exactly Notre Dame's best friend. Um, they're about to miss on a New Year's Six bowl again. It's so interesting because of Freeman being a former Ohio State Buckeye, that there's some kind of animosity happening between Ohio State and Notre Dame. You would think it would be lessened with a former Buckeye being the coach of the Notre Dame team, but unfortunately, it seems like that's not the case. I do think that is correct. Daniel and I don't always agree, as you can probably imagine. But here's the thing: I think Notre Dame, I think they are. They whiffed on, I think, a strong OC candidate. They hired from within instead of going from without. And with the offense that they had last year, I was kind of hoping that they would shoot for a Joe Brady type, and maybe not actually Joe Brady, but someone of that caliber. Notre Dame, being the school that they are, should be shooting for the stars when it comes to your offensive coaching talent. And I just think that it was underwhelming. And Michael will probably disagree with that. But yeah, Marcus Freeman from Dayton, and that's why I'm kind of surprised at the. There's definitely some chippiness between those two fan bases for sure. We've got Jason's counterpart with the Jim Harbaugh face. Notre Dame isn't even in a conference. They're not in a conference. Yeah. And don't they seem like the perfect choice to joining the Big Ten? They're already in the Big Ten for men's ice hockey. So I think eventually they'll probably join the Big Ten when the economics of it become impossible to avoid. Right now, they have a pretty solid, lucrative contract with NBC and a decent solo media deal. But as super conferences become more of a reality, that I think the pressure is going to become immense to join a conference eventually. They can still make the playoffs, but remember, the top playoff spots are conference champions. And as we know, Notre Dame cannot be a conference champion. So the best they can do is fifth. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm just saying, like, I'm shocked that, a former Buckeye being the coach, they're still as chippy as they are. That's all. Yes. Hair Trigger, you should call in. We love Iowa fans calling in. Erica Goldberg has called in to the panel and has been part of the panel most weeks, and it's been really fun. So we'd love to. We definitely want to have people call the show. So can Michigan overtake Georgia? The answer is it's going to be tough, right? It's going to be very difficult to do that. But is it possible? Sure. Remember, Notre Dame was first in recruiting at one point last year, and that didn't last. And the same could be the case. Now, Georgia won 2 national titles back-to-back. So it's going to take a lot for Michigan to make up, 50 points roughly in the rankings. But they're going to, if they get all 4 of these players that I think will come based on Jaden Davis, then that's possible. You also have to remember that Robinson, the 4-star edge rusher, is probably going to be coming as well in the next week or two. So all of those together could come together and help Michigan overtake Georgia, or at the very least come closer. Yes, I did. But still, I mean, you're going to turn on the Buckeye brethren like to that degree. I know it was something about academics, right? If I recall correctly. But still, it's a Buckeye. Come on. Like, if a Michigan Wolverine was the Ohio State or the Notre Dame coach, I don't think we'd be best friends, but I think we'd probably, I think that would ease the waters a little bit versus a non-Michigan Wolverine Notre Dame coach. It's pretty obvious that Michigan. Well, is it that obvious? Okay, I'm a Michigan fan. I'm a Michigan fan. I am. I make that very well known. But owning, okay, I think they're the leader right now. I don't think anyone can debate that. However, Penn State is really good. Okay, 5-star quarterback, 5-star running back, excellent defense. Manny Diaz had really helped turn around that defense. I think it's likely that Michigan owns the Big Ten, but I'm not going to go as far as to say it's pretty obvious. Ohio State and Penn State are going to be very good, and you even have the outside possibility of a Wisconsin with Luke Fickell. And we had our buddy earlier. We had Nick Snow, who was on from the Bucky's Fifth Quarter. We love when Wisconsin people call in, and he was sharing some of what Fickell's been doing as the head coach over there. Remember, they have a great defense. They have a great they have a really good running game and everything else. So add that to the air raid that Chip Longo does, and it's possible that they're up there. But these are the players that Davis coming, now that Jaden Davis has officially committed to the University of Michigan. He literally said he's going to start recruiting now. Now that he's committed, he's going to be calling up his boys. He's going to be calling up Channing Goodwin, Jordan Shipp, and some of these other players. Marion Stewart, they played in the McDonald's game, right? So they know each other a little bit. I mean, Michigan is definitely the best team based on results on the field, based on returning production, 81% returning production. That's a fact. However, you also have to look at what happened. There's a reason we play the games, right? Conventional wisdom, would probably say that Ohio State should have beat Michigan last year. Conventional wisdom said that the game was in Columbus. They were upset about the win in 2021. And yet they over-relied on trying to stop the run. They forgot to really pay attention to JJ's passing ability. Because to be fair, he hadn't shown it against a team with the pulse yet. Look at what happened the previous week. I was in the freezing cold Big House watching Illinois get very close to winning that game. And thanks to a last-second kick from Jake Moody that saved the Michigan undefeated season there. Yeah, Brett Bielema made a couple of coaching mistakes towards the end of the game that I thought were kind of weird. Kind of taking his foot off the gas a little bit in a couple of areas, and allowed Michigan to make those clutch plays at the end to be able to get that field goal through. But Illinois probably should have won the game, and if Brett Bielema had coached the same in the first half and the second half, like if he coached the same in the second half as he did in the first, then probably would have. I don't know what happened. I don't know why he kind of rolled over at the end of the game. It was weird. Okay. We also have Drew Campbell committing to Iowa. So Drew Campbell is the brother of Butkus Award-winning linebacker Jack Campbell. And so he is a 6'4", 225-pound defensive end from Cedar Falls High School. So he selected the Hawkeyes over Iowa State. I'm sure Iowa loved that. Offers from Iowa State, Kansas State, not a slouch either, and Northern Iowa. Okay. Cheers. So you've got two real schools in there. So I think that's pretty solid. He had 52 tackles, 20 tackles for a loss, and 9 sacks. 9 sacks. That's pretty good. Brian is very confident that Michigan is going to have a generational defense. to the point that he has said that 6 or 7 times. I'm going to just go ahead and say that Brian, I think it was probably a mistake. I don't think he was spamming it. I think by on purpose. Todd Gwynn, thank you for your $2 super chat. Remember that if you send a super chat, you go to the front of the line and you get your name in the ticker at the bottom here. So check it out. Todd Gwynn, your name is now going to appear at the bottom. Your estimate of Purdue win-loss record this year. This is a tough one because there's so much unknown. With Braum gone and most of their offensive production gone, and their defense was never anything to really write home about, I could see this being a 4-win season for Purdue. I do. They lost a lot of talent, and they lost their head coach. They gave Michigan their best punch in the Big Ten championship game. That was the best Purdue can do. That was of course, maybe they had I'm sure they had people out, but I say they win 4 games. Let's pull up Purdue's schedule on fbsschedules.com. And let's look at what their schedule is for 2023 and how many wins they could potentially pull off. Okay. First game against Fresno State. That is probably a dub. Virginia Tech. Ooh. It's a tough one. That's a coin flip. It's at Lane Stadium. I'm gonna say that's an L. Syracuse is at West Lafayette. Probably maybe a dub. Wisconsin is an L. Illinois is probably an L, but they lost a lot of talent too. Hawkeyes is definitely an L at Kinnick. Ohio State is an L. Nebraska is probably an L, although that one I could argue either way. Michigan is an L. Minnesota, they might surprise Minnesota. They're always good for a surprise game. But again, I just don't see where the wins are coming. Maybe they beat Northwestern and Indiana to end the season. And then I think if you count all the ones I gave a dub to, you're looking at 4 wins. So there's your thank you for your $2 donation. And so hopefully I answered your question. I'm thinking Purdue's going to go 4 wins, 8 losses. Michigan will have a generational. Who said they're a generational defense? I mean, they're going to have a very good defense. I think what you're getting at is that Georgia will have the number 1 defense, which I've said a couple of times in the chat that Georgia will probably have the number 1 statistically ranked defense in the country. Michigan will be top 5. They'll be top 5. They're losing talent, but they're also, I think they're pretty set at almost every position on the field and on defense. Cornerback, they've got multiple really good cornerbacks. Obviously, Will Johnson. And McBurrows and Jair Hill did really well too. So not only do we have a Marion Walker, who didn't look that great in the spring game, but you have McBurrows, you have Jair Hill. So you've got some real secondary players. The D-line looks good. And so I think generational might be a bit of a stretch, but top 5 statistical defense at the end of the year, I don't think would be a stretch. They'll probably be up there with Georgia, Iowa, Bama. Yeah, Michigan. Maybe Penn State's up there. Yeah. Michigan, I mean, look, Minter has proven himself to be a good D coordinator. In some aspects, he was better than McDonald. McDonald, now again, McDonald had a patchwork job because he basically had to patchwork Don Brown's, terrible job the last couple of years, and he basically put 2-star players on the edge to cover up for and do edge rush. Aiden Hutchinson, who wound up being the second overall pick, and Ojabo, who was at the spring game. And then you have Jesse Minter continuing with the Ravens-style defense and making it more of a systematic approach. And the great thing about a systematic approach, as we've seen with Alabama, as we've seen with Georgia, as we've seen with the New England Patriots when they were on their Super Bowl runs, a systematic approach is really a great way to do it because then you're not over-relying on 2 or 3 star players. I'm not sure if you're talking about Michigan or Notre Dame. I think you're talking about Notre Dame because Michigan had a title a little more recent than that. So I think you're talking about Notre Dame. You guys are going back and forth. I love that. Michigan D will look like 2016 Bama. Wow. Okay. I have Wisconsin beating Ohio State. Well, let's go. April 22nd is the spring game. Then you have the Buffalo Bulls. That would be really interesting if they played the Buffalo Bills. I think they're probably going to win. Washington State, that's an interesting one. They probably win, but that's kind of tough with it being at Pullman, at Martin Stadium. I'm not sure yet. At least they have a nice cupcake to start the year, but Washington State's going to give them a really good game. They're probably going to win, but I wouldn't be shocked if they lost. Georgia Southern. Wow, they're playing Georgia Southern. That's an interesting opponent. Probably win that game, but, remember, they run through teams like, through a tin horn, and you can't stop them. You just can't stop them. That's what Nick Saban said. Purdue, probably a dub. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights, probably a dub. Just on defense alone, on the run, they probably could just go defense in the run game and win that. Forget about the air raid, and then add the air raid to it. Look out, and it's at Madison. Iowa Hawkeyes, that's a tough one. It's at Madison. I think I gave this one to Iowa potentially when we talked the Iowa schedule. So if I did, then I'll stick to that prediction and say that might be an L. Illinois is a dub. And yeah, Ohio. Wait, so you think Wisconsin could beat Ohio State at Camp Randall? It's possible. It's possible. Camp Randall is a tough place to play. If it's the big noon kickoff, that's not ideal for Wisconsin. And if what happens, if they go if they're undefeated until this game, if Wisconsin's undefeated, then they're absolutely going to get big noon kickoff with Ohio State. And we all know what happened when Michigan got big noon kickoff against Wisconsin at Camp Randall, and they did jump around. You remember that? Then you have Indiana there. That's a dub. Northwestern's a dub. Nebraska is probably a dub. And then Minnesota. I mean, this is a 10-win, 11-win schedule right off the top. But again, you have to factor in that the personnel might not be the best fit for Chip Longo's air raid year one, and that may set them back a little bit. But they have a great defensive mind in Luke Fickell and a great defense coming back, a great running game. And then you add the air raid. it could very well be a 10 or 11 win season. Did I say generational? Oh. I mean, okay. I think Michigan and Ohio State may both be better than Alabama this year. We'll have to see. So, first of all, here's the link to call the show. Please call the show so we can start our panel. Usually we have a couple of people call the show and we have a little panel discussion. Alabama, so I was listening to Josh Pate, and he put Georgia ahead of Bama in his rankings on best team. And, I can see an argument either way, but Georgia, I think, is the better team the last few years. And yeah, it very well could be that they're both better. I think Ohio State and Alabama are pretty close. Michigan, maybe with their defense and with the running game, the two elite running game talents that they have, it might be slightly above. But again, we'll see. I mean, all three of them might be in the playoffs. So we might get to see it on the field. Let me just try to tackle some of these comments. We're getting a lot of comments. Wow. Okay. Michigan leadership is better. Iowa know how to win as if they were, I don't even know, maybe there was a beginning that I missed there. Michigan leadership is better than Iowa. I mean, Brian Ferentz is still the offensive coordinator at Iowa, so. Okay, let's see it on the field. Notre Dame is one of the biggest hype teams I've ever seen. They are always ranked high, and then they underwhelm more times than they haven't. And so I have to see their quarterback. It looks like they're going to upgrade at quarterback. But again, they were supposed to be really good in 2022, and then they lost to Marshall, and they lost to Stanford. So they did pull it. I will give them credit for the back half. They ended with 9 wins, and I didn't think that was going to be happening at the beginning of the season. So we'll see. Eric All is the real deal. Yes, he is. Iowa got a real great talent there. Bill O'Brien is gone, correct, but did you see, Argraw, did you see who Bama hired? Tommy Rees. So is that an improvement? I don't know. DeReal, we've got friend of the show DeReal on here. And yeah, that's a solid take. And then Clemson and USC, I think you can make a case for them cracking that top 4 by the end of the year as well. One of them could slip in to one of those places too. All right, we've got a caller on the line, Goat James. Goat James, thanks for calling in, man.
Oh yeah, man. Look, man, I got Ohio State going down in 3. All right.
Okay.
And then Michigan. Hey, let's talk Michigan real quick, man, because I don't think people really understand what this team, from a depth standpoint, returning production, and the defense. The defense, I'm letting you know right now, that defense is gonna be nasty. I'm letting you know that right now. That front 7, the D line is 3 rotations deep. Kenneth Grant, 78. He's going to be a monster. They got SEC type tech.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
So before we start with that, can we tackle your 9-3 prediction for Ohio State?
Oh yeah, of course.
So let's go through the schedule for Ohio State. They'll win the spring game, and then they go to Indiana.
Yeah.
They'll probably win that one. Youngstown State, that's a dub. WKU, that's a dub. Ohio. Then they play Notre Dame at Notre Dame. So do you think that could be an L?
Yeah. So the 3 losses I got are ND, Penn State, and Michigan.
Okay. Okay.
Because
So
I mean,
wow.
yeah.
So,
Well, I got to see the O line and the quarterback of Ohio State.
yeah.
If they do replace that production to a certain point, I'll change that. But for right now, I'm going with 9-3 till I can see what that looks like.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
sorry I
what I'm
didn't have
going with
this.
that.
Sorry I didn't have this on the screen, but we're basically saying that at Notre Dame Stadium is going. You think that that Notre Dame will win that game?
I do.
You think that Penn State will beat Ohio State in Columbus?
I do.
And
And then Michigan's a no-brainer.
Michigan. Well, I wouldn't call it a no-brainer, but I would call it likely.
I mean, as close as you could get to a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So put yourself in the shoes for a second of Ryan Day, okay? And the immense pressure that Ryan Day is under to win this game in 2023. He is going to give us, and I've been on record as saying this, Ryan Day is going to give us the best football game he has ever coached in his life. And
isn't that what they were saying last year?
And I mean in terms of the game plan would have been great if they'd used it in 2021, right? So if they had done that same thing in 2021, they probably would have won that game 2021. But the thing is, they didn't account for JJ's passing ability. So
oh yeah, that's true.
That's big.
I think that was their best opportunity, unfortunately for them, was last year. I think if anything, they're going to have to wait till a lot of this team leaves because they got to go to Michigan. JJ McCarthy is going to have that experience on his belt. They pretty much return everybody. They're going to be even deeper than they were last year. The D-line, I'm telling you, man, this D-line is going to be ferocious. This whole front, the Kai Hill Green, who missed last year, he was supposed to be a starter. He's back. They got that transfer, that Big Ten transfer, or that All Big Ten transfer from Indiana as linebacker. He might not even break the starting lineup. Who knows? I mean, this is the best chance Michigan's going to have to win a national title since '97. Going into the season. Yeah, going into a season like last year, a lot of people didn't pick them.
Talisman, you got Junior Carlson, you got Michael Barrett. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. They're so deep, dude. It's crazy. They're so deep. And then DJ Turner, I like DJ Turner. Yeah. I like DJ Turner, but he was on the smaller side. Now that second corner spot is gonna, even though they got to catch up on experience, the size and length and athleticism is gonna be a notch up. So like, I mean, I don't see how anyone in Big Ten will beat them. I just don't see it.
Well, I do have Michigan at 12-0.
Okay, Steve. So you a smart man.
Well, and people call me a homer, but the reason is because of the evidence of last year, the evidence of the 81% returning production, the pieces that they picked up in the transfer portal, and even what I saw with my own 2 eyes in the spring game, even though it was limited.
Oh yeah, the one thing that popped out to me in that spring game, bro. I mean, I won't keep that defense is just, whoo.
Yeah,
I mean,
and Georgia.
I know I saw that comment about generational D, but Georgia and Michigan have the 2 best defenses in the country.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, they're going to be 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
Georgia's
probably. I would say Georgia 1, Michigan 2, but it's right there, and Georgia probably has the better talent in terms of recruiting, in terms of the star ranking and all of that. But remember, Michigan coaches their stars, even though they don't get as many 5 stars as Georgia. They coach up their talent into becoming like a 5-star-esque player.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, Michigan's D tackles this coming year are going to be Georgia-esque. So Kenneth Grant,
yeah,
Jenkins, Mason Graham, those are going to be the best defensive tackles in the Big Ten, and it's not going to be close, frankly. It's just not. I mean, did you watch Kenneth Grant in that spring game? I mean, he was abusing, just straight abusing people. And Mason Graham was a star as a freshman last year. I mean, I'm excited, man. I'm most
well, he
excited I've
was
been in
the
a long time.
number one overall pick in the
Traffic,
spring game.
and you
Kenneth Grant. He
can
had
see
3
why.
tackles.
And you can see why.
Yep,
All right, man. I got to roll. Hope you have a good one.
absolutely. Thanks for calling in. All right. So that was a great call there. I would love to hear from the Buckeye perspective because we don't want to be accused of being one-sided. We'd love to hear from the Buckeyes. Call in the Penn State perspective as well. Ohio State is favored over Notre Dame and PSU in the early sports book. And then Michigan is favored by 1. So, yeah. And yeah, I think 9-3 was definitely underrating Ohio State a little bit. I have them at 11-1. The Notre Dame game, though, that is one that could go Notre Dame's way. It's not like Ohio State destroyed Notre Dame last time. That was in Columbus. Now it's going to be in at Notre Dame's house. Yeah. So So our caller had Ohio State at 9-3. Yep. So that's tough. That's it. Is it possible? Yeah. If that happens, Ryan Day is going to get fired. Now, I think people saying Ryan Day should get fired if he goes 11-1 and a 3-point or 7-point loss to Michigan at the Big House. I think that's ridiculous. If he goes 9-3, he's going to get fired, especially if it's a Michigan loss. I got the Buckeyes at 14-0. Hope spring hopes eternal. Yeah. I mean, that would be something. That would be Ryan Day's best performance. The second best, I guess you could say, even though 2020 was the COVID year, they got to the national championship game that year. They beat Clemson playoff. MCD Sports, thanks for being here. Ryan Day isn't getting fired. If he goes 11-1, he won't. If he goes 9-3, I think he will. Or he'll go to the NFL, or he'll go do something else. The pressure, 3 straight Michigan losses, and now he's losing other Big Ten games too, and maybe he loses to Notre Dame. Oh boy. No, 9-3 or worse. I don't know. He's getting paid a lot of money. I don't think it's reasonable to say it'll be like 9-3 is probably their floor. I don't think they're going less than 9 wins. I'd be absolutely shocked, given what I saw in the game against Georgia, given what they are returning. McCord was a highly sought after recruit. They picked McCord over JJ, so that means something. They have 5-star wide receivers, 4 stars all over the field. If they go less than 10 wins, that's a huge disappointment. Yeah, you're hired to beat Michigan, and I mean, you could argue the same thing with Jim Harbaugh, though. Jim Harbaugh was hired to beat Ohio State. I didn't think it was going to take 6 years, but it did. And, then again, Jim Harbaugh probably only kept his job in 2020 because he was one of the best quarterbacks that Michigan has ever seen. So I don't know about I don't know about Ohio State going backwards necessarily. It depends on how McCord does. We really haven't seen McCord play much. I do have a topic though that may actually rile up some people, and my next topic is actually in defense of C.J. Stroud. I think that the amount of hate that Ohio State fans have heaped on C.J. Stroud is completely and totally unfair. He is not the reason that Ohio State lost those games in 2021 and 2022. In fact, CJ Stroud is the reason that Ohio State was still in the games against Michigan, especially 2021. 5 minutes until the end of the game, CJ Stroud had them coming back, and it was going to be, if it wasn't for like just the inability to stop Hassan Haskins in the run game, Ohio State might have been able to get a last-second game-winning 2-point conversion, or maybe they go to overtime and win in overtime. But CJ Stroud was not the reason that Ohio State lost those games. So I wish that fans would not, Venmo CJ Stroud hate messages. Just from a mental health perspective, like let's be kind to people. And look at these stats. So here's 2022. He was tied for second in touchdowns, 66% completion, 3,688 passing yards. Now let's look at Justin Fields' best year statistically, because everybody says, well, Justin Fields was so awesome. He was. But here's the thing. From a passing yardage perspective, he actually had fewer passing yards than CJ Stroud. He had the same amount of touchdowns thrown, 3 fewer interceptions, and had a slightly better completion percentage. It's very close. Now, you also have Justin Fields' running ability that kind of, I think, put him over the edge in terms of, I think that's why people kind of have him above. But it's, you can really make an argument either way here. And so I just think that the hate for this player was unfounded just because of some Michigan losses. And I think he played his heart out in the Georgia game. And now I don't have to root against him anymore because he's probably going to go to the Carolina Panthers or a team like that, very high in the draft. And, I think he's a great player. And I've defended him a bunch of times from his own team. And I'm a Michigan fan. And so how about that? Don't forget that we're going to be covering on Michigan Wolverines Live Wednesday at 5, the spring game. We're going to be awarding the leaders and best of the spring game, as well as key takeaways that we had for the spring game that we just watched. Yeah, the hate for CJ has nothing to do with this play. It's mentality. I understand that. I get it. I understand. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know if Young is going number 1. I'd actually, I think that reportedly the Panthers are very impressed with Stroud. And remember, they took, I think there was like 13 people at the Ohio State Pro Day from the Panthers. Yes, we do enjoy talking smack about Josh Gaddis. And it's for good reason, okay? It's for good reason. And you look at what he did at Miami, and you look at the route running abilities that weren't there, the lack of discipline. And Gaddis, made kind of a stink on his way out of Michigan. He's kind of been a little bit mouthy with Michigan fans on Twitter. He's stirred up drama even with Maryland and with Loxley, which made me so shocked. So I guess they must have buried the hatchet, or maybe Gaddis just didn't want to be unemployed for a year. So I was very surprised that he was working with Loxley at Maryland. Let's see here. You do realize that Day recruited a lot of that talent, right? Yeah, I mean, Day and Hartline. I mean, Hartline's one of the best recruiters that I think college football has seen in the last 10 or 20 years. The wide receiver room is absolutely stacked, and that's why he got the promotion. I wouldn't go as far as that. I think Michigan is the king in the North right now. Michigan is the king in the Big Ten, period, right now. because of the performance on the field. They have won the last 2 Big Ten championships. They beat Ohio State head-to-head twice. So Michigan is the king of the North right now. Could that change? Yes. CJ Stroud didn't, well, I mean, the first couple of games he didn't do super, super great. But remember, the first couple of games, you're working out the kinks. And by the end of the first year, I think he was doing a very good job. He had a Rose Bowl game that was absurdly good. So I think he definitely in the back half of year 1 did very, very well. Yes, Day was an assistant. He came in with Urban. So Urban was still the head coach. Day had 2 years of offensive. He had a year. I think so in 18 he was the OC with Kevin Wilson, right? And in 17 he was either pass game coordinator. He was something in the offense under Urban. But 2 years of assistant, and then of course a couple of games as interim head coach during that time when we had the little scandal there in 2018. So he had a couple of games where he won as interim head coach. Okay, I never said anything about the mom thing, although that's been out there. Gaddis just made a lot of Stroud hasn't been panning Ohio State on his way out the door, so the comparison there isn't really fully at apples. It's kind of apples to oranges, because on the one hand, Stroud is a college athlete. He's not a coach. And so therefore he doesn't have the years. And so you've got to factor that these are college students. Okay? Gaddis is a grown man. And so it's not a complete comparison. And Gaddis was basically throwing shade on the way out the door. Stroud was not doing that. Okay? He's always been, I think, very thankful to Buckeye fans and all of that. So maybe a Buckeye fan though can prove me wrong. Okay, I'm trying to catch up on all these comments. How good of a game day coach do you think Ryan Day is? I think he is. He's improved. I think his Georgia game was really good, but he needs to take more of a CEO mentality. I think he needs to look at the bigger picture a little bit more and working out the kinks in the defense. Knowles is a very experienced D coordinator, but as the head coach, you need to be able to move things around if you need to. Looks like Goat James is back. Hey, Goat James, welcome back.
Hey, man, I gotta speak some peace real quick, man. Look.
Okay.
Would you say Georgia's the king of college football right now?
Yes.
Okay, right. Now let's apply the same logic to Michigan and Big Ten. So Georgia's the king of college football because they've won back-to-back national titles, correct?
Well, yes, and also their talent, their
correct.
Their abilities have proven themselves in almost every aspect to be the king in college football.
Exactly.
The titles, of course,
exactly. Before that, exactly before that, Bama was running things for a long time, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You apply that same logic to Michigan and Ohio State. Michigan has dominated the Big Ten 2 years in a row. Ohio State was like Bama running things for a while. So if people in Ohio State fans are going to say Georgia's the king, you got to keep your logic consistent. If you're going to use that logic to justify Georgia as the king, you got to use the same logic to justify Michigan as the king of the Big Ten. Okay, there's that. Secondly, the reason Harbaugh gets more slack, I feel, was your point. Yes, he was the greatest, one of the greatest quarterbacks that Michigan's had. But also, the situations were different. When he came into Michigan, they had the second worst record for over 8-year period before he got there. Recruiting was in a slump.
Yes.
Ohio State was a well-oiled machine. You can have a little bit of slack there. Ryan Day took over a Lamborghini. His daddy Urban gave him a Lamborghini. Got that trust, gave him the trust fund and all that. So he's got to take over that company and keep it running. And if I'm being honest, he's turned Ohio State into a Big 12 style of play program where it's all about throwing the ball. They've gotten softer. The defense looks like a Big 12 defense to me. All right. It's just facts. I mean, if anything, he hasn't elevated Ohio State to me. He's changed their brand of football. So when you look at all that, of course there's higher expectations for Ryan Day to win right away. So it's not a fair comparison. So yeah, that's my piece, man. I mean, I don't know how you can have an argument about it.
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to remind everybody, I've posted the link here a bunch of times. Goat James has called in. Buckeye fans have not called in.
They don't want the smoke.
You're saying stuff in the chat, but I'm welcoming any fan base to call in.
Yeah,
Ohio
come get
State,
the smoke.
Penn State, call in, and we're going to have like a Brady Bunch style panel going on, and we can all debate with each other. I think that you are right in terms of, remember, Michigan was a dumpster fire in the locker room in 2014. Okay, Brady Hoke, Captain Claps a lot, and I don't like wearing a headset. The locker room was a complete disaster. The AD, Dave Brandon, was a complete disaster. Okay, they were giving away like a free Coke or whatever, a free Pepsi with tickets. You remember that? And it was a 5-7 team, didn't even make a bowl game. And so
recruiting was in the slumps too. Those last couple recruiting classes, man, were like in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, Hoke was a good recruiter in the beginning, and I think that they fell off a bit for sure. But yeah, I mean, Rich Rod and Brady Hoke, there was one good season, the 11-2 Sugar Bowl season, and that was it. That was one good season, and then it was dumpster fire. So
people who expected Harbaugh to come in right away and start beating Urban Meyer, I mean, it was unrealistic. If we're being real, I mean, don't get me wrong, Harbaugh by 2016 got that program farther than anyone had expected. Mm-hmm. And the only reason people were talking like that is because of where he got it by that time. But if we're being real, I don't think anyone realistically thought that Michigan should have been beating Urban Meyer out the gate like that. Like, to me, that's crazy.
Yeah. So 2015, the fact that Michigan had a 10-win season, won a bowl game, that was above expectations. Yeah. I think any reasonable Michigan fan had 8 wins maybe that year. 10-win season was exceeding expectations. 2016 was probably at expectations, maybe a little bit higher. But like remember, Michigan was one play away from being in the playoff probably.
I mean, if they don't lose to Iowa, they're probably in the playoff.
Yeah, that's right. Then they would have been right. And so that was also a thing. One, so 2 plays away maybe from being so 2016 Harbaugh was almost there. 2017,
that was a disaster in the quarterback situation.
Any other quarterback other than the worst one that we've seen in
Ever.
A while.
Ever.
And Michigan wins in 2017 against Ohio State. And so that completely, the recruiting picture, the status of Michigan would have been vastly different. And so we have to remember that the Big Ten East is one of the most difficult divisions in college football. And, it's called a meat grinder for a reason. It's very, very hard to win all your games when you're playing Ohio State every year, when you're playing Penn State every year. And then every so often, Maryland has a really good game. Everybody's giving you their best punch. Rutgers took us to overtime a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
And within 7 points, Shiano Rutgers teams play Michigan very, very tough. So the Big Ten East is one of the toughest divisions to win in, and yet Michigan has found a way to do it the last 2 years. And so, so when you look at Ryan Day and what he's had to deal with versus what Harbaugh's had to deal with, Ryan Day was given a program at the very top of college football.
Yeah, I mean, like, crazy.
And so he was handed a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, like you said. And
he also kept all the Urban's coaches for the most part.
Yeah, Mickey Marotti being, I think, a very notable coach that he kept, who I think is one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the history of college football.
Yeah.
So I think that, that's something to be pointed out as well.
It's harder to build a company than to just take it over and just keep it steady. Like there's levels to it.
Daniel, you Michigan fans forget Jimmy was on his way out. He needed that.
Hey man, come in here and get the smoke. You guys don't want the smoke.
Yeah, everybody's just
they don't want the smoke, man. They know they get cooked.
I posted the link about 50 times.
So yeah, they know they get cooked, man. They're saving themselves the embarrassment.
You don't have to put your camera on. You can keep your camera off. Come on in. Can you make – okay. Now, I will give Ohio State fans this. Yes, if you had played Michigan in 2020, you would have beat us. Congratulations. Oh, yeah. You would have been facing Dan Villari as quarterback because half of our team was out with COVID by the COVID protocols that were put in place. Dan Villari was going to be the quarterback in that game. So, yeah, you want to claim that as a victory? Congratulations. You would have won that game. Okay, great.
I mean, yeah, is that what we're doing?
But is that really something you want to be claiming, that you could beat Dan Villari?
Yeah, and people killing me with this playoff record thing. Like Ryan Day, yeah, he has a playoff win, but he's also 1-3 in the playoffs himself. Like, and not only that, Michigan's 2 playoff losses, TCU, inexcusable. Don't get me wrong, inexcusable loss.
TCU is inexcusable, and so was South Carolina. Those 2 of the postseason games, those are the 2 that I have as inexcusable losses. Okay.
Yeah, but in terms of playoffs, though, I mean, did anyone have Michigan being that Georgia team? I mean, come on, guys. Like, I mean, people are like, oh, you got blown out by Georgia. Yeah, Georgia had a generational D. I don't think anyone expected us with Cade. It was a terrible matchup. Like, matchup-wise, it was just not good.
Georgia had a generational defense, yes. And you could just see it in the line play that it was a mismatch.
We didn't have the quarterback to make the plays either.
Yeah, Cade McNamara was not the quarterback for that game that we should have. JJ McCarthy. Now we know that he was battling an injury. And so he still played and he did pretty well against Georgia's backups in the end of the game. But yeah, in order to beat Georgia, you need a mobile quarterback and you need a strong thrower of the football. And Cade is more. I hate to say, I know there's some Iowa fans in here. Cade is a game manager type quarterback.
He's exactly what Iowa likes.
And I don't say that as necessarily a negative most of the time because Iowa loves that kind of quarterback. It's the best quarterback that they've probably had in years, and he'll probably win some games with Eric All that they wouldn't have won otherwise, and probably get to a 10-win season.
Hey, 100%. Hey, where's everybody with the smoke, man? Come on, man.
I don't know. I'm posting the link, and it is, people can come in, and Ohio State fans are welcome to come debate and have a reasonable debate and discussion.
Hey man, it's because they know deep down what it is. They know deep down what it is, man.
Also, you got don't forget, Goat James and everybody in chat that Wednesday at 5 we're gonna have Michigan Wolverines live, and we're gonna be handing out the Leaders and Best awards for the spring game. So we'll be giving who we thought were the leaders and best in the spring game. But who did you see? I think you've already mentioned. You mentioned Kenneth Grant.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Real quick, I got called out RG Raw in the comment section saying that Michigan revolves around Ohio State. You guys are only saying that now. You didn't have that energy before we started beating you. I love how you guys moved that goalpost. Before we started beating you, that's all you cared about, 365 crossing out the O's, man. What are you talking about? It's crazy to me, bro. You only use that excuse once you start losing. Oh, we don't care about that. Come on, man. Anyways, back to the players. Benjamin Hall. I thought he showed some promise. O'Leary, man. I know they was talking about him last year. He got wiggle. Obviously, we didn't see a lot of the starters on offense, and it's hard to gauge the offense just because it was a bunch of they just spread everything between the two different teams. JJ, I thought had a weird kind of rocky start, but I thought he settled in.
So Ben
The
Hall
main guys that stood out was defense. Go ahead.
yeah, Ben Hall, I think, just cemented the third string running back. So I know you're gonna say, people are gonna say, well, you've got Isaiah Gash, you've got CJ Stokes. Yeah, but I watched them play live. They're not that good. Ben Hall has an opening to be one of the top running backs. He rushed for 96 yards. He got a touchdown. And Mike Hart actually said that he has similar attributes to Hassan Haskins, who, by the way, is on an NFL team now. So,
yeah, real quick. Cool. Hold on 1 second. Let me put this on.
And we've got Jason Moose, Michigan fan, has just given us a $5 super chat. Okay, so thank you, Jason Moose. Go Blue. And I'm adding you to the ticker now. I knew you couldn't resist. The irony of it was that Ohio State canceled against Illinois during COVID too. Yes.
All right, I'm back. I'm back.
Well, we're honoring Jason Moose.
Oh, my bad.
Michigan fan just gave a $5 super chat. And he said that the irony was that Ohio State canceled against Illinois during the COVID year too. So
I guess they were scared of Illinois.
Scared of Illinois?
They
must
have been.
Not.
I mean, we're using their logic.
Using their logic, yes, but in reality, probably not. And it was because they were going to have half of a team, just like Michigan was going to have half of a team against Ohio State.
I'm gonna hit you with a controversial take. I don't think you'll agree with it. You might.
Maybe.
Alex Orji, to me, I've been saying this for a couple years. Yes, he could be a backup quarterback, but I think he'd be a Bo Scarborough type of running back, bro.
Wow.
Imagine him as a power back. Like in the short yardage, like he had that one play in the spring game, bro, where he demolished the dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to see him take some handoffs just to see what it looked like.
Yeah, give it a shot. I mean, and look, we're going to be playing. Michigan is going to be playing the East Carolina Pirates. If there's a great place where you can evaluate, maybe putting Alex Orji in some running game snaps. How about the East Carolina Pirates?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Give him some snaps at running back, man. Imagine him in the red zone. Oh man, try taking him down.
Absolutely, it's tough, and I'm gonna post the link again. So remember, anybody's welcome to call the show. You don't even have to put your camera on, and we'll talk to you. We welcome Ohio State fans. We welcome Penn State fans, Wisconsin fans, Nebraska fans. We don't care.
It's crazy. You got all these people in the comments, fans, talking that mess. They don't want to come in.
And then you've got So Kenneth Grant played really well. Jair Hill looked like he might be another one to look at. McBurrows made a pretty good play in the game. So I think there were quite a few players who got some good time. And JJ, he had a weird start. But they pointed out Devin Gardner, Michigan player, former Michigan player, quarterback Devin Gardner had pointed out that the wind and kind of the conditions weren't perfect for quarterback play, and he did at the end rally and had a really good kind of a second.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about JJ at all.
So I'm not. Yeah, I'm definitely not worried
about that. Like I said, I actually think the second corner spot, especially towards the middle point to the end of the season, is going to be an upgrade from DJ Turner because of the length and athletic. DJ Turner, despite how fast he is, he didn't have the size, and he got in trouble a lot last season because of his size with jump balls. So I actually think that's going to be an upgrade.
R. Graw has asked us to move this conversation on to another. Call in, somebody call in, and we'll move the conversation to the
he don't want. That's the dude that said that thing about Ohio State.
But we do have friend of the show, Michael Campbell, Notre Dame fan, is calling in. So somebody is stepping up.
Shoot.
We got Michael Campbell calling in. Thanks for calling the show, man.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, it's good to hear from you.
I'm trying to get some things straight.
Absolutely. You have been I'd say one of the biggest Notre Dame enthusiasts that we have in our community the last couple of days, and you've been really pushing strong for that Notre Dame is going to have a good 2023 season. What do you think the record might be if you had to guess, like what how well you guys think you're going to do with the Fighting Irish?
Pull
I'm
up their
really
schedule.
looking at 11-1 because we got two of the big games at home.
Right. Yeah. Let me pull
Last
up.
year it was flip-flopped and you had an inexperienced quarterback. We didn't have our receivers ready.
Yeah, Drew Pine was your quarterback.
Drew
for
Pine
most
was
of the whole year.
absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, he was. And friend of the show, Will ND. You know Will ND. He talked about this all the time. He wanted Drew Pine to get the boot.
Yeah, we could have put in. We got a young kid called Steve Angeli. He's a bigger quarterback. He would have at least he'd have been out there not getting his pass blocked every 5 minutes.
So your first game is in Dublin, Ireland, against the Navy Midshipmen.
That's just a decoration game.
As a win. Tennessee State Tigers win.
Yeah.
NC State Wolfpack win.
Yeah.
They go undefeated all the way to October 7th. I can already tell you that.
Yeah, Central Michigan is a win. And then you've got the first difficult game.
It's not a difficult game. It's just a rematch. It's a reprint from last year, and we ready this time.
Oh, yeah, you're going to whoop Ohio State.
Wow.
This time, Marcus Freeman got this 0.
Well,
okay, I'm just playing.
Somebody might disagree with you guys. We have Alex Martin, Ohio State fan, calling the show.
Finally,
right now.
man, let's get that smoke.
We got a Buckeye fan in here.
I want that smoke, man.
Alex, welcome back to the show.
They coming in here with they had to use us last year to get in the playoffs.
Alex, what do you think about the Notre Dame game?
Well, I had comments on actually things that actually matter, which would be like Michigan and us. So Orgy is going to be the best quarterback in this country in no time flat. Not even a question.
Wait a minute.
Alex Orgy?
Alex Orgy, the best quarterback.
Absolutely.
Wait, you 100%, right?
Now we got the weed smokers in the chat.
I live in the real world.
You said you a Ohio State fan?
Anyways, so Orgy's going to be the best quarterback in this country. It's not even a question.
Wow.
Not even a question.
Wow.
Wait. Yeah. The bottom dude. Are you who's your team?
Ohio
State. I'm gonna need to go get me a drink on this one.
Wait. I'm confused, man. Why are you saying that? Why are you saying Alex Orgy gonna be the best quarterback?
Are you talking real football?
I can't tell if he's messing, bro.
Wait. Let him explain.
I'm not explaining anything. The Michigan guy. Where are you, guy? Where are you, guy? Are you on the chat?
I'm right
there.
Here.
You go. Alex Orgy, yeah, your guy is going to be the best quarterback for sure.
Wait, why is that? Why is that though?
Why is that? You're from Michigan. You saw the game, right?
Wait. Are you basing Alex Orgy being the best quarterback of that game? Is that what we're doing?
Dude, you guys are slow, man. I'm trying to say that
you're talking about a guy that barely played.
Okay,
you realize that, right?
Let's not insult anybody.
No, I agree. I'm confused by this Alex Orgy. He's barely played any snaps at quarterback in his career.
He has a spring game.
He hasn't played any real football. What are we talking about right now?
So Davis Warren and Jack Tuttle.
Does this guy know who the starting quarterback of Michigan is?
Yeah.
I'm not sure right now. I think he might think Alex Orgy the best starting quarterback.
So okay, let me just ask this. So JJ McCarthy, starting quarterback in Michigan, and then Alex Orgy. If there's a quarterback battle between those two, you think that there's a possibility that Alex Orgy might overtake JJ McCarthy? Is that? I just want to understand.
I didn't say that. I said he's the best. Okay. He's the best quarterback, and he will be probably in the country in no time flat. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying not this year though? We're talking about this year.
Like eventually.
I'm not talking about eventually. I'm saying what the real world Alex Orji is the best quarterback that we can speak of in this country right now.
But we not clear on when you talk about this happening.
Orji is the best quarterback.
Does he realize that he's not the starter? You realize he's not the starter for Michigan, right?
He's not starting this year. So
that's what I don't understand with this guy.
Starting.
I don't think he knows the roster.
I'm not going to continue this. Obviously, some people haven't played football before. He's the best. He's the best in the country. Is what I'm saying.
This guy's trolling.
This guy's
trolling.
Right.
This guy's trolling.
He just saying it over and over again.
This guy's got to be trolling.
What was this troll? I went to Ohio State in 1990. Robert Smith. What was the troll thing?
You realize Alex Orji's not even starting this year. You do know that. Like he's not even going to see the field as a starter.
I'm not going to go there, but you sound kind of dumb. Of course, he's not starting. He's still the best.
How's he going to be the best? So how's he going to be the best quarterback this year?
Okay. Timeout.
Talent, bro. Talent.
This guy making no sense.
Okay, guys. I want to go back to because I actually think what the interesting topic was about the Ohio State versus. I want to know about the Ohio State versus Notre Dame game because a couple of people have said that Ohio State would lose to Notre Dame. And I just want to understand, like, okay, so basically that's assuming that McCord, when he starts, probably isn't as good as CJ Stroud, and the defense hasn't figured it out, and Notre Dame is able to overcome with their quarterback play, and is that kind of the idea of how? Also the offensive line is not ready. And they know it's not ready. They sent too many to the NFL. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, here's what I'll say. I'm basing this. So obviously that game is what, game 5? Game 4, game 5. So obviously if Ohio State shows McCord and the O-line shows that they are up to par, I'll probably change my pick. But for now,
game 5.
Yeah, so they got time to figure it out, and they got time for me to see if that O-line and the quarterback's up to snuff. But based off right now, I'm gonna pick Notre Dame. It's at their house. It's hard to fill in those CJ Stroud shoes. I know people disrespect CJ Stroud, but he's one of the most beautiful, accurate passers I think the game's ever seen. And that's hard to replace.
I literally I agree with you because I did a segment before you guys called in.
Right. Even go look at CJ Stroud in his first game, big game. When Oregon came up into the horseshoe.
Yeah. He took
and dominated.
It was his second game ever, right? So he needed time to, I think, gain the reps needed to become great. Those first couple of games weren't great for him compared to the second half of that season.
It's no different this year. He played against Akron.
Well, I'm just saying McCord's got some shoes to fill. Is my point.
Yeah.
He just got some shoes to fill. Like
he's not walking up into Notre Dame Stadium and just coming out here and being John Elway.
Well, here's the difference though. He's got more time to figure it out. That Oregon game was, I believe, game 2, game 3. I forget what game. It might have been the first. It was
like game 3.
It was in the first 3 weeks. Is my point. So they got some time to figure that out. More than CJ did, but either way, he got shoes to fill. So I mean,
and offensive line.
And they lost 3 out of 5 offensive linemen. I mean, that's big.
That's the game.
Yeah, no, I mean that's why I'm picking Notre Dame right now.
So we got
the game is just football IQ.
We got. I think you guys are going to beat Duke. I think you guys are going to beat Louisville, and then you get to USC.
USC don't want to come to the house either. They had Drew Pine last year. Everybody expected Drew Pine. Look at Utah. If you look at Notre Dame and look at Utah, we're about the same type of team.
Okay. I'm curious. You're probably going to get
Clemson.
Tim Prengley might be calling in soon. I have a feeling.
Who's Tim? Who's he?
USC fan. One of the hosts of the Trojan Show every Sunday night.
Oh, I think I know who that is.
Yeah. So we might get a call soon.
Yeah, man. As long as we got no more trolls coming in talking to Alex Orji gonna be the best quarterback in the country.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what that was.
Right, he came out of left field I thought I was.
Maybe he meant after. Okay, like let's say Michigan wins the national title or gets to the game, at least to the title game, and JJ goes in the NFL, and then the next year Jaden Davis isn't ready yet, and then maybe you have a quarterback battle with
Yeah, I get that, but then when we asked that, he said no, not eventually.
But he said the best.
Yeah, he said, and then he goes, no, I don't mean eventually. I was like, then what are you saying?
Yeah. Orgy's great, but no, JJ's going to be QB1 until he leaves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's questioning that. It's like,
yeah. So so based on so USC Notre Dame. So what do you think Michael? What do you think the factors are that are going to cause? Is it going to be USC's defense, or is it going to be like what are some of the factors that you think are going to cause Notre Dame to win that game?
Just putting up points.
Okay.
Last year, everything is that the Notre Dame offense choked. You look at every game we played, we lost.
Okay, that's the one game I got you guys losing. Actually, is USC.
Caleb Downs is not Superman.
No, that's Clemson. And then I got you being Clemson. I just don't got you being USC.
Clemson is probably the hardest game because just where it is.
No, I think Clemson's falling off the train track, bro.
Yeah, I think we can beat them. I'm just saying, just because we have to go to Death Valley, and I don't never trust going to Death Valley.
Well,
I don't trust the rest.
You know what's crazy is Clemson rushes the field on losses too.
Yep, meet me at the paw.
Weirdest tradition in football, right there. You're gonna rush the field on losses.
Clemson took a game from us at Death Valley about 4 years ago with Deshaun Kaiser.
Or no, they rushed the field on wins. My bad, but they rushed the field that they beat like Middle Tennessee. They rushed every win. It's like, what are you doing?
So as we talk about this topic, I think it's only fair if we're talking about USC versus Notre Dame to bring in the USC fan into the chat. Tim Prangley is here. Tim, welcome back to the show.
What's good, Tim?
Yeah, what's good? Hey, listen, first question. Did you watch last year?
Oh, my God. Here we go with last year.
Oh, no.
Exactly. USC is beating
not
Notre
the same.
Dame.
No one's coming with the same team from last year. So you might want to erase that from your memory. It's not the same team. So you better look at the roster.
Are we all going to talk at the same time, or are we going to all talk in turn? How are we going to do this? You guys let me know.
Tim, you go.
So you want to do you want your Marshall and Stanford win?
Okay, look, man. So let's back up. Last year was year one under Lincoln Riley, correct? Is that right? Are you with me? So then you had the year before that. What was USC's record the year before that? Do you even know?
Marcus Freeman's first year.
No, man. Hey, listen. I'm asking you questions. So what was USC's record the year before?
Didn't you just transport 1 million people from y'all were just Oklahoma West?
So I'll help you.
Just ask a question.
They were 4-8.
Yeah.
Okay. They also had probably the worst defense I have ever seen at USC.
Yeah.
Bar none, the worst.
Well, that is a staple of Lincoln Riley.
No, that was before he got there. And
I'm saying Lincoln Riley just doesn't have good D.
Yeah, people throw that around a little too much. Okay, let's put it this way. When Riley got to Oklahoma, who was the defensive coordinator?
Stoop? No. Was it Stoops?
Yeah, yep. Mike Stoops. Okay. He inherited that mess. And that was a mess. And they had to dig out of it because they had some individual players on that defense, but they didn't have the right personnel. I don't know what was happening in Norman, but I'm going to tell you, I'm seeing the defense they pulled in this year. What we did is we treated the Pac-12 this year like last 2 years in a row, like our farm system. And we're grabbing the best players. This guy, Kion Bars, remember that name, the Notre Dame guy? Remember that when we play you? He's going to be the guy in the middle. You guys couldn't run on us last year. Do you guys remember how yards you got before?
No, we couldn't.
I got USC making the playoffs.
It was a different game last year. Y'all knew we couldn't pass the ball, so you just loaded the box because they weren't going to throw until the end of the game. And even Drew Pine threw 300 yards on you in the second half.
Right. Why? Why did he get 300 yards? Because we loaded the box and we took away the run. Is that correct? And so we put the game's hand in the arm of Pines, and he eventually, the magic ran out, and he turned the ball over.
Right. That's Drew Pine. So what are we talking about?
Well, let's just talk about a couple of things. How are you going to
Drew
stop?
Pine is in Arizona.
How are you going to stop USC's offense? I want to hear this.
They're not.
How many points is USC going to score on Notre Dame this year?
No different than last year, probably less because we'll have the ball more.
Probably.
It's a time of possession game.
I see. Time of possession. So the team that wins the time of possession wins the game. Is that the new rule this year? I thought it was who's scoring the most points is the one that wins the game.
Right, because we'll be scoring points. It's not going to be the Drew Pine show this year. You got a cupcake.
True.
Be happy.
Well,
Right. Didn't you guys lose a couple offensive linemen?
We got the best left tackle in football and the best right tackle in football.
You do.
well, I don't know why you're saying that. That's crazy.
Joe Alt is the number 10 player in college football. Look it up.
Okay.
First of all, Michigan gonna have the best O line.
No, I ain't asked you that. I said look it up. Who is Blake Fisher and Joe Alt?
I'm not looking it up.
Don't give me your fantasy, your dreams.
He's your team. You tell me. Why am I so excited about this Joe Alt? He's a good player. I don't think he's the best left tackle. What are you talking about?
Well, you don't think, but the NFL scouts think he is.
So explain to me why you guys are going to be. We beat you last year. The only reason I give you guys a chance in this game is because it's in South Bend and weird stuff happens in South Bend. That's why I'm going to give you guys a chance in this game. But USC across the board on defense, Kyon Barrs is going to be able to stop your run. It collapses. I don't care who your interior offensive linemen are because he is going to crush up the middle with you guys. It's going to be bad.
Yeah. USC got their one little win, and now they got a new coach, and they think things are turning around. I got USC
making the playoff because I just think they're going to go 12. I just think they're going to go undefeated in the pack, and then also beat ND. So,
in all fairness, Joe Alt has won quite a few awards, so I give you that one.
We got and I got Caleb Downs throwing some picks to my new corners.
Yeah,
you got
the
Morrison.
Only team USC could lose to, in my opinion, is Utah. It's just a matchup problem, but that's it.
No, Notre Dame is no different than that matchup problem. That's what I just said. Utah.
No, it is different. It's different.
What's different?
I mean, you could just look at last year. I mean,
I can't look at last year because I'm not coming with last year. Y'all keep looking at last year because it's not the same team.
Utah plays a certain brand of football that just
doesn't
mesh well against USC.
But what is that?
Did they play that tough nose football?
Yeah, hold on.
There's no different when we play. We just couldn't do anything. They have Cameron Rushton. That's a whole different scope. You put Drew Pine on Utah and see if they struggle.
Hey, bro, volume, dude. You're like yelling into your mic.
I'm gonna clear the field a little. Goat James, you've been on a while. We love you. Go Blue. But I'm gonna let you go. Okay. And then because I want to bring some people in and out, okay?
Dang. All right.
Oh, I'm talking to my phone. That's probably why.
My concern is like I keep hearing these like it's the weirdest stuff for college football fans. I'm not sure if you guys actually do the research or you're just listening to your local radio station or whatever it is, but this idea that West Coast football's soft. I'm just so tired of this misconception. It's because if USC is so soft, how come they were able to stop your great and incredible offensive line and you guys could not pick up 100 yards against us rushing? Why was that?
Because you had 9 in the box and we wouldn't run.
Not 9. They were running 9 in the box. They were running 9 in the box. That's incorrect. 9 in the box? What?
It was 9 or 10 in the box.
10 in the box now. Oh, come on, dude. Really?
They knew Drew Pine wasn't going to throw the ball. That is not the case. It's a whole different game this year.
All right. Well, I'm not. All right, John. You got this one. This guy's not really talking sense, so I'm good. Okay. We got a homer on. So.
Well, we
everybody wants to accept 2023 to repeat in 2020. I mean 2022 to repeat in 2023.
I don't think. And it's not saying that.
Pull up the roster. Pull up the roster.
Okay.
Well, so my question to you is if we're not counting 2022 and we're just talking 2023, why?
Yes, because of the new talent, the new coaches.
Almost done.
Just like you have new changes.
My question, let me finish. My question is, if we're not counting 2023, why are you saying that Notre Dame's going to beat USC this year? What made them better this year? getting a quarterback?
Wide receivers, a quarterback, an offensive coordinator, a quarterback coach. What else? The whole offense is new.
Let me ask you a question. Your offensive coordinator, where did he come from? Who'd you guys pull in for? Because we pulled in this guy named Lincoln Riley. Who is your offensive coordinator?
He came from West Virginia.
Your offensive coordinator?
Well, your new OC didn't he get promoted from within?
Promoted
Like
tight end coach. You know that, right? Your tight end coach last year.
He was an offensive coach at West Virginia. He was an interim head coach at Purdue. So you can go with the tight end. You need to do your research.
Well, I mean, I'm not over. Do we even know his name? Do you know his name?
Gerald Parker.
Yeah, never.
So how do you just you didn't do your research? You calling me out?
No, I know his name and I know he's a tight ends coach. That's all I was saying. I'm laughing because
tight ends coach where?
He was the tight ends coach last year at your school.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Ohio State has a wide receiver coach that's their OC. What's the difference?
Well, the difference is I'm not talking about Ohio State. I'm talking about your team.
It's a football move.
You're telling me one of the big pluses.
You act like he's never called plays before.
Crazy. I can't have a talk with you if you're not going to let me talk.
Yeah, so let's let everybody talk.
You're telling me that you named one of the reasons why you're going to beat USC this year is because you're offensive coordinator, and I'm saying, what has your offensive coordinator done?
I'm watching the practices. He's cleaning up what Tommy Rees couldn't do it because he's a 30-year-old.
Got you. So he's doing well in practice, and that's why you think he's going to beat USC. Is that where you're going?
I watched his plays at West Virginia.
Okay, so we've got coaching career here. So tight ends coach last year, promoted from within, and I just argue that Notre Dame could have done better. I think that with the brand that you have, the endowment, the money that you bring in, the NBC contract, I think you guys could have called a Joe Brady. I think you guys could have called somebody who, has had that proven success. And, West Virginia OC, let's be real, they're not exactly world beaters.
Yeah, that's the team. That's what my point is. If I looked at what he did, not what the team, West Virginia exactly is not a chart stomping.
He wasn't there very long. And then,
go look at, he was in charge of red zone.
Yeah, I got you. So he went from OC, right? OC/wide receiver coach, if I'm reading that
He's
correctly.
the interim head coach at Purdue.
Okay. That just means that he was probably the most senior coach on the team. Doesn't mean he's a great offensive coordinator.
And then Brom got hired. So
my point is that you're talking about his credentials. You're talking about his credentials as an offensive coordinator. I asked you, why will he be better this year if we're not looking at last year, which is a very valid point you brought up. It's not last year. It is this year. Good point.
Because he has more experience than Tommy Rees.
No, looking at this, Tommy Rees has more experience as offensive coordinator than he does because he has 2 years at West Virginia. Am I reading that
And
right?
what does Tommy Rees have?
How many years was he the OC at
He was a quarterback coach that got promoted.
Right. How long was he there as the offensive coordinator?
I think Tommy Rees probably 2018 moved up.
Okay, so he was there for about 3 years. Yeah. So that means he was OC for 3 years at Notre Dame, and this guy was the.
This guy has more coaching experience than Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees is only 30 years old.
You know what? Lincoln Riley is only 38 or 39. Age doesn't mean anything. Some guys
experience means something.
I'm 51. Does that make me a better offensive coordinator than Tommy Rees because I'm older than he is?
No, I said experience and age. Experience doing what you do. His resume is on the screen.
Okay, so my point to you is this. Okay, so let's throw out that. So what other things would make you think that Notre Dame is going to turn the corner and be a better team this year?
Because now they also have a quarterbacks coach that put a quarterback in the NFL. That's called development, something Tommy wasn't good at.
Okay, so you're saying the reason I'll be better is because by the way, you know where Tommy went, right?
Yeah, Tommy's going to be successful at Alabama because Alabama is a good program.
Now, if he's such a bum,
they would win without Tommy Rees.
I got to ask you a question, though. Don't you think that Nick Saban has a pretty thick Rolodex, and he could probably say, who do I want as my OC? Do you think he'd have his options? Do you think there's a lot of people dying to become the offensive coordinator at Alabama? That was hypothetical. Do you think there's a lot of people that want to be the offensive coordinator at Alabama?
Alabama got turned down twice by offensive coordinator
My question to you
before
is,
they got Tommy Rees.
my question to you is do you think that there are a number of offensive coordinators that would love to be an offensive coordinator at Alabama? Okay, the answer is yes. If you're not going to give it to me, there are a number of people who love to be offensive coordinator at Alabama, and the fact that he chose, would you say that? Do you think that Nick
Probably
Saban?
is, but that's
do you
not
think
what
that
he
Nick
wanted.
Saban? Do you think Nick Saban is a stupid man? Do you think he's a bad head coach? Do you think he does not know how to pick a coordinator? So
Nick Saban fires a lot of offensive coordinators.
So if he has the means to pick pretty much, with a wide range of offensive coordinators, he has the money and he has the clout to do it, and he chose Tommy Rees. That you're telling me that Tommy Rees was the problem, and that you're going to bring.
What was wrong with the coordinator they had last year and got Tommy Rees?
The problem with Notre Dame is they don't have skill position dudes. That's what their problem is. They've had great lines. They always seem to have a good, like every 3 or 4 years, you have a great line. You get to make a run for the playoffs, and then you get crushed in the playoffs. But that's Notre Dame for the past 15 years under
Brian. Tommy Rees was mentored by Brian Kelly.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
We wanted to get rid of the entire Brian Kelly era issues.
Okay. There you go. So it wasn't he was a bad OC. It's just it wasn't working there. Would you say it's not working out? And you want to get rid of the Brian Kelly era at Notre Dame? Promoting your tight ends coach, who
Tommy Rees and Brian Kelly don't win big games.
I'm assuming
that is not what Notre Dame wants to represent anymore.
I'm assuming that the move in 2021 was he fired from West Virginia? Because usually people don't go become a tight ends coach and take a demotion. What was the story behind that? Do you know why he left West Virginia? Are you there?
Okay, I'm gonna let in Argraw, Penn State fan, just so we can get the Big Ten perspective back in here a bit more.
Why did he leave West Virginia? Because it was a dumpster fire.
Hey, Argraw.
Didn't the offensive coordinator leave too?
Hold on a second, Mike.
Jared Parker and what was the other guy that was the one that took over? They both left West Virginia.
Okay, Argraw, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. I was just enjoying a little Notre Dame USC chat, but I always welcome a Penn State caller as well.
Was it Grand Herald or something like that?
Okay, Michael, I'm welcoming in Argraw. Argraw, did you want to contribute to USC Notre Dame, or did you want to talk about something new?
Yeah, Grand Herald was the OC, right? Didn't he leave?
Okay. Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
So just we're gonna let Argraw talk for a second.
Okay.
I guess more than anything else, I just kind of wanted to maybe redirect the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've got nothing against USC. I would say I don't have anything against Notre Dame, but I'm definitely not a Notre Dame fan. But even so, it's just, Big Ten show, Big Ten talk, and USC not quite in the Big Ten yet. So I just sort of wanted, I guess, to redirect it to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where I'm at. I guess that's where I'm at with it.
And what did you want to talk about?
I guess it's funny. One of the things that we actually talked about last week on the show is we were sort of going through and discussing, potential records for Michigan, for Ohio State, and Penn State was sort of among that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still sort of scratching my head why so many people, it's like one person in the chat that sort of aired on the side, I guess, of Penn State, but everyone was really heavy on the idea of Iowa going into Happy Valley and beating Penn State. And I'm still trying to scratch my head as to, now, don't get me wrong, like, anyone can sort of have their own opinion on that, anything at all, but I guess I'm sort of trying to walk through the process is the best way of looking at it, I guess.
Can I address that? Because I was definitely one of the people that think you're going to lose to Iowa. And
sure.
I'm going to explain why. Is it an uphill battle for Iowa? Yes. Okay. All the conditions are, all the field conditions are in Penn State's favor, right? But here's the difference. First of all, Iowa did win the game. the year before, I believe.
Sure.
That's number one. Number two, the quarterback has gone from Spencer Petras to Cade McNamara. Okay, Cade McNamara is going to be throwing to a guy named Eric All. And if you remember from 2021, Cade made that pass at the end of the game to Eric All that won the game for Michigan. And so I think that he has more of a knowledge of Penn State's scheming. It's going to be different. It's been 2 years, but still, he has. I think he has the when you combine that, Cade to Eric All, Cade to Luke Lachey, and then Iowa's defense, which is always a top 5 to 10 defense in the country. Those are some factors that are going Iowa's way, and so that's why I'm thinking it. I was close, and I just kind of pulled the trigger on giving it Iowa the win, but in a close margin.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I was just sort of wondering that, and I guess because one of the things I was looking at was I was sort of looking at the second half of the season for each team. You know, sort of where did they both end up on the second half of the year? Because I think that's a fair gauge to assess where you end up with. In the back half of the season, certainly treated Penn State very well as opposed to Iowa.
Correct.
I was looking through as far as the teams that they played, they're on equal footing.
Mm-hmm.
For both teams, the opponents on the back half were averaging about 6-7 wins a game. So it's equal competition. Mm-hmm. However, Penn State's offense averaged 40 points a game to Ohio's 20 points. Their defense actually outperformed Iowa's in the back half. They held their opponents to 16.8 points per game on average to Iowa's 19 points a game. The record was 1-5 for Penn State, while Iowa's was 4-2, and that included a loss at home to Nebraska. And then, of course, the bowl win. You had Penn State, taking out, the Pac champions with Utah, as opposed to
you always leave that out. You do realize Rising got hurt in that game, right?
Okay, that's fine, but they put the boots to them, and before he got hurt, they weren't being threatened by them either.
Wasn't it a 7-point game when he got hurt?
Okay, sure, right, but again, they weren't being threatened. It wasn't as if they were playing from behind the 8 ball, and then they ended up putting the boots to him. So, I mean, you can say that that's fine, but Penn State was still in the driver's seat at that point.
No, I wouldn't. When you're up by 7 points, you're not. John, would you agree with me? If you're up by 7 points, are you in the driver's seat, John?
I wouldn't call it in the driver's seat, but I would call it an edge.
Okay, edge, right? And that's what I'm getting at.
That's the edge, yes, but not in the driver's seat. No,
right. Well, when I'm saying driver's seat, I mean they're not playing from behind; they are sort of dictating the pace, like that kind of thing.
Again, I don't think, or that early in the game, a 7-point lead is not really going to change the way they're going to play their offense. So I'd have to disagree again. But go ahead.
Okay, well, I get fair enough. You and me respectfully disagree. Fair enough, but. That's the bowl win for Penn State. They win very big over Utah, and then Iowa. Their bowl win was a win against Kentucky, who someone can correct me. Maybe Media Beast can correct me if I'm wrong. I think they finished 4th in the SEC East, if I remember correctly. But the point being, Kentucky is not on equal footing with Utah. That's what I'm getting at ultimately. So that back half of the season, Penn State, without a doubt, looking at statistics, like they just simply outperformed Iowa. And even with the addition of Cade McNamara certainly played well against Penn State, but he is 1-1 against them. And that includes a loss where he was 12 for 25. He had 91 yards passing and a QBR of 31.
You're talking about the 2020 game?
Yeah. Or the 20... Was it?
Yeah, 2020 game.
Yeah.
And then Michigan was a terrible team that year in a lot of different aspects.
Well, that's true.
You can't put all that on Cade.
That's true, but Penn State was a dumpster fire that season as well. And then I guess the last point of contention is that Iowa, who certainly had a very good, no one here, no one in the chat, I don't think would disagree that Iowa had an absolutely outstanding defense, and that is certainly the thing that they hang their hat on. but they're returning less than half of their defense. It's something like 45% or 49%, something along those lines. So they have some work they have some work to do to sort of rebuild that defense to make sure that it continues to be, it performs well and top notch. So I guess with all of those things that I looked at, I'm thinking to myself, sure, you could say Iowa's going to make strides, they're going to improve, but that was just, it was sort of one where I scratched my head and I thought, someone could pick them. I have no problem with it, but it's like, looking at the numbers objectively, I just didn't see it.
Well, one of the things I guess that you gotta look at, Drew Aller's still a big question mark. He hasn't played a ton of snaps. Everybody says he's going to be the second coming of, I don't know, some amazing quarterback, but we haven't seen it yet. Have you seen enough yet on him, maybe in practice, in other areas, to show that he can hang? Because that, like, everybody's saying, and Steve Dace is even saying it, like he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten, but we just haven't seen it yet. And you can make the same argument with McCord, but Clifford, for all of his faults, he could break off a run every now and then and a crazy play every now and then that, put them in the first half against Michigan. I mean, they shouldn't have been in that game statistically, but they were because of a huge Clifford play and a couple other crazy plays that happened. So, I mean, do you think that Drew Aller has that it factor to be able to carry that offense, especially against Iowa's top 5 defense?
I think Aller is very talented. He has shown promise from the little bit of sort of opportunity that we have had to see him play. But I think the key to that is he does not have to carry that offense. He can do very well. He can do well enough, but the game is not going to have to rest on his shoulders because of that backfield that Penn State has. It is a very good backfield. And also their tight end room is very talented. And tight ends tend to be a safety blanket for quarterbacks who maybe are a little bit green, or maybe they're not necessarily that great. So it's definitely helpful to have a deep tight end room like Penn State has. So he has a supporting cast around him to lift him up. I don't think everyone necessarily, they don't need Aller to be the guy. They need him they want him to do well. And he certainly could do it, but he has a lot around him in terms of supporting cast to help him out along the way too.
Well, and you make a good point. You look at the running game, and D-Rock Irish. So we have a couple of Irish representation today. Mentioning Singleton, and Singleton is not the only running back that you guys have that's an elite. I think close to an elite talent. So if you get the running game working, then to your point, you don't really need to have Aller be like a super amazing player. Because look at Michigan's MO. Michigan has been primarily a running team with the occasional decent throw from a J.J. McCarthy or even a short, medium range throw from McCade McNamara. But in the end of the day, like a strong running game can get you far in the Big Ten. So I'm with you there.
Well, just skilled athletes in general, John. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the differences in the Big Ten, is the fact that teams like Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State, the reason why they're the top is, you see a lot of great linemen. You see a lot going on in big guys, but you don't see a lot of the skill players. Some of their positions, you don't see the wide receivers and the running backs like you see at those 3 schools. That's why they stick out.
Yeah, that's certainly. I could see that being somewhat of a fair assessment. I mean, you do have some talent over the years in the Big Ten and skill positions. Like I'm thinking about maybe Minnesota with Mo. He was a great running back, very great running back. Wisconsin has had their share of good backs. So it's certainly in other programs too, but it is primarily those 3. So that's a bit of a fair point.
How would you rank? So James Franklin has been known, and I've given him his props for being an excellent recruiter. His in-game decision-making, however, has been, in my opinion, more questionable. Do you think that that's improved this last year? And do you think that now they put themselves in a situation where they can actually get over the hump against a Michigan or an Ohio State level talent?
Well, it better have improved because he's making like over $8 million a year. That's my
That was my
money.
point.
So
Yeah.
he better be doing something with that. He better get some results here. No, yeah, absolutely. I've said this before. I said this last week.
Yeah.
James Franklin is a good coach. Like, I'm not going to take that away. But here's the thing. He's a good coach. I didn't say he's a great coach. I didn't say he's an elite coach. I said he's a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good coach with good results. And add to the mix that he is a great recruiter.
Yeah.
And then that's sort of where you're at with it. He has won big games. However, it has been, that's been few and far between under him,
Right.
where he's beaten Michigan. He's beaten Michigan multiple times. He's knocked off Ohio State. He's won a Big Ten championship. He's capable of doing it, but the problem is he's not doing it reliably. It's not consistent. And oftentimes he gets in the way of himself out on the field with game day decisions. A really good example of how maybe he should be better, and then somehow he ends up sort of screwing the pooch is his record.
Really fast? Can I say one thing?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the reason and the sole reason why a bunch of my buddies at USC, when we heard that his name was coming up as a possible candidate for the USC job, I'm not saying he was going to come, I'm saying a possible candidate.
Mm-hmm.
I sat in that Rose Bowl in the south end zone, and I watched the last 4 minutes of that game. And I mean, it was a great effort by the Trojans, but he gave USC every chance, throwing the ball like he was, and late in that game, literally those interceptions in that game basically handed USC that we wouldn't have time without those interceptions.
Right.
Sometimes he just makes really strange coaching decisions, but anyway.
I agree with you 1,000%. I don't know if you were around last week, Tim, for the conversation that we had. But it's funny. I said one of the things that I did say was there were a lot of Penn State fans that were hoping that James Franklin went to USC, and then we would end up with Roll. That was sort of the hope among a lot of people. But again, I'm not going to knock Franklin and say he's terrible, because that's not a fair.
No, he's not terrible, without a doubt.
And I'm not saying that he can't win big games, because he can. But his problem is consistency, and that consistency stems from the fact that he can't get it out of his way. He makes poor in-game decisions, and oftentimes he just doesn't prepare that well. If you want to look at something where that's going to be head scratcher, look at his record after a bye week, when you have 2 weeks to prepare for it. Perfect example. He had 2 weeks to prepare for Michigan. He got stomped by Michigan. Like, it's one thing to lose to Michigan, but when you have 2 weeks to prepare for that game, like, no, come on. Like, he should have had something better in place. And then a couple weeks later, he goes down to the wire with Ohio State. So, I mean, that's sort of where he's at.
Well, here's one thing. I mean, I'm not the expert on this one, because I did watch both games, but I didn't watch them as closely as you guys did. But they're two different teams you're talking about, and some in sports, it's about matchups. And I really think that you look at a team in Ohio State, where their defense was better, but not great last year. And they're more of a finesse team. They'll kill you with speed and talent. Whereas you have those hardball teams where you could have 5, 6, 10 tight ends, and or I mean, where there's gonna run the ball. You're just gonna run the ball, and play in hardcore, smash mouth football. And not all defenses, your defense probably is more of the, like I'll say, Penn State, you get the elite guys, you get speed on the outside, you got some talent in the middle, but you don't have the beef to stand up against, like what they do at Michigan, which they do is they smack you in the mouth. So it's all about matchups. That was my take on both those games you just talked about. And that's why I think that one was closer than the other. It's not saying one team's better than the other. I'm just saying they're different matchups. And usually in football, and definitely, well, think of boxing's number one, right? But all sports, if your team, the other team does something very well that you don't do very well, it's not going to end very good. You know what I mean? And that's what I saw with that game, that matchup.
Right. Yeah. I guess what I would say is there were other teams within the Big Ten that certainly played Michigan better, and certainly played Michigan much closer, and has nowhere near the town of Penn State. So regardless of sort of like matchup, the outcome of that game should not have been the way that it was, given the amount of talent that is on that team. Again, I'm not saying that they should have won the game, but it shouldn't have been the way that it was when you had sort of, no disrespect to other teams, but lesser teams sort of putting up a real fight, maybe, or at least a much better fight. I don't know, Maryland. I'm fairly sure, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maryland sort of wasn't too bad of a game, at least for a while. They sort of hung with them. They played. I remember them playing much better than Penn State against Michigan. Given what you have, the resources. Yeah, exactly.
Maryland did very well. Also, Jason just gave a $10 super chat, which relates to what we were saying about the running back core of Penn State. PSU fans keep saying Allen and Singleton are the best running backs in the country. Need I remind them about the stats against Michigan? Corum, 28 for 166 yards, 2 touchdowns. Edwards, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. Allen, and then not so much with Allen and Singleton. I think that has partly to do with, to be fair, the defensive situation too, right? Like the defense was just shutting down Penn State's run game, and vice versa. Like the defense of Penn State, which not exactly super friendly with Urban Meyer. He was saying that Penn State that we weren't going to be able to that Penn State was going to be able to stop Michigan's running attack, and that 400 and some rushing yards later. But what's your take, Argraw, on that super chat there and the running situation? Like, do you think that it'll be a little bit different this year? Obviously the situation's different.
Oh, come on. You don't remember my hot take at the end of last week's show when I got, of all people, Jason was really up in arms when I said that my hot take was Penn State had the best backfield in the Big Ten.
Well, I think that's why he's saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I honestly believe that. And I think, and again, I'm not taking away from what Michigan has. Of course, they have a very talented backfield. Mm-hmm. That's not up for debate, like not even a little bit. But it's a matter of what does that front end look like? What do those backs have to work with?
Right.
And those backs have a very, very good line. The only person in here that probably pulls their hair in that chat is Beast Media when that gets brought up, because oftentimes people will say it's top 2 in the country, maybe the best in the country. But that's what you have to work with if you're a back at Michigan, at least right now. With Penn State, not so much. The offensive line over the past however many years under Franklin has been the Achilles heel more than anything else.
Got it.
Credit to him and credit to the team. It looks like it is getting better for real this time, because every year he likes to tell us, "Oh, this is the year. It's good this year," and then it's not. But this year, it legitimately seems like it's better, or it's going to be better. And if that's the case, then those two, that tandem of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, they really have something to work with.
So what you're saying is that you're basically taking the running back core in an island, and saying that in an island, forgetting any other factors, O-line play or anything else, you're saying that the reason I think Corum and Edwards have been doing so well comparatively to yours is because of the line. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like, but in an island, the running backs have more talent or more ability. But how does that? Like, you kind of have to look at it holistically, don't you? Because otherwise, what's the point, right? It's about who wins games.
Well, it is, but no, you're right. You have to look at it on the whole. But when you're doing that, you're no longer comparing. You're no longer comparing positions. You're comparing teams. Okay. So if we're going to compare the backfield, then you have to look at what makes up your backfield. Okay. If you want to compare the line, you have to compare, okay, well, who's on the line? That's where I'm coming. So if all things are equal, I'm rolling with Singleton and Allen. But right now, those are not equal, and Michigan has a very good line, especially compared to Penn State's. So I guess that's where I draw the distinction between the two. Again, not taking anything away from what Michigan has in their backfield. incredibly talented, but I'm going Katron now and Nick Singleton. I've seen too much of them this year. They're freakishly good, and they're both true freshmen.
Well, now they'd be sophomore.
Well, they were true freshmen. Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, in an island, if you're picking a running back, I mean, I'm still rolling with Corum all day.
Sure.
I'm going to give you a real reason, because the TCU game, the play calling was actually different because Blake Corum wasn't in the game. That's the impact that player made on the team, right? I was at the Illinois game and noticed the difference when Blake Corum was in the game and when he wasn't in the game. The entire offense shut down when Blake Corum was out of the game. In the TCU game, Michigan wins probably by 7 to 10 points if Blake Corum's in the game, because there were two specific moments in the game where they made a play call that they otherwise wouldn't have made in one case, and one time they just couldn't punch it into the end zone, and Blake Corum gets those 99 out of 100 times. So if I'm thinking about based on actual success and based on player ability, I would pick Blake Corum just based on what I've seen so far. But I understand, I get what you're saying. Like in a vacuum, you're going to roll with your guys. Makes sense.
Right. Yeah. And again, I obviously it's like, when you're a fan, you have the bias and everything, but I'm trying to do everything I can to remove any kind of bias and just view it from, like you said, like strictly in a vacuum, look at it, that kind of thing. But even so, I guess that's where I stand on that particular issue.
Got it. It does seem like that some new emojis have been issued. So those of you who have the YouTube membership, apparently there's now a Michigan emoji. So if you want access to that and some of the other, we're going to be adding more as we go.
Yeah, I think we're missing one. If we're going to have a
probably one, you get the USC in there.
I'm gonna hack that. I'm gonna hack it and get it there and put my own.
I'm sure you will. Yeah, and we'll be adding more, probably some regular callers. Some things that kind of keep coming in, like as we start, maybe a Knuckleheads one. I don't know. We'll probably add them as we go. But yeah, my guess is Ohio State is going to be added pretty soon if it isn't already. Okay.
You got the voice college football one in there now too.
So what we're going to do real quick here, we're just going to a couple of reminders, because I realize I've been slacking on that. Remember to join our Patreon. So we talk all the time, and Tim's in there, and we have people, we call them the Knuckleheads, the voice of college football, and we talk in our Discord chat 24/7. I'll try to do a better job of it. I'm actually going to have a poll on who people thought were the leaders in the Michigan spring game. And I'm going to bring that, like the feedback that we get from that, into the Wednesday show. So the people who are on Discord will actually get a say potentially in who the leaders and best are. So that's kind of cool. And so we'll do that. Patreon.com/MarkRogersTV. It's only $5. And then of course the merch store. We now have a merch store. If you haven't seen it yet, I strongly recommend you check that out, and you can sort by what's been selling the best. So I'll share my screen because we've got now multiple different options here that you can choose. It looks like the mug has now taken over as the #1 best-selling product, and maybe I have been showcasing it on the shows every so often. It's a great mug. Mike G likes the hoodie. You got your T-shirt. And there's just a variety of products for the whole family, friends, neighbors. Tote bag, you can light a candle for Rutgers or any other school. You can have laptop stickers, and then my favorites are on the second page here. You got your swim trunks, you got your yoga pants, you got your wine tumbler. So you really can get something for the whole family, friends, neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. So if you haven't gotten your Mark Rogers merch yet, go on over there and check it out. Post the link right in here, so everybody can check that out when we wrap the show. There it is. Cool. Any final thoughts? We'll start with Argraw. I think we're gonna wrap up here in a minute. But Argraw, we appreciate you calling back in.
Yeah. Hey, no problem. I guess just in the future, for the folks in the chat, don't be afraid to call in and go ahead and represent a school other than Michigan, Ohio State, and even Penn State. It's a Big Ten. It's a Big Ten program.
I was so happy when the Wisconsin media guy called in. With Mark, that was great. Like so rare that we hear from Wisconsin. So that was awesome. So we'd love to have more of that. And so Mark and I work the DMs on the media people, try to get some media people in here. But in addition to that, all the callers, we definitely I would love to have an Illinois fan call in, or just a fan that we don't usually hear from. So you're always welcome.
Absolutely. I would absolutely love to hear more about the perspective of Wisconsin and Nebraska both, because in my opinion, you might look at the top of the conference with it being Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, those, sort of the big three. But to me, this year, the most interesting storylines are going to be those two universities. So I'd really like to see and hear more about those two. So, there you go.
Dr. C, you want to? Dr. C, are you? I'm trying to remember. Are you Wisconsin, Nebraska? I think you are.
Dr. C? No,
Yeah.
He's an Arkansas USC fan.
Oh, Arkansas USC. Okay.
Interesting combination. Definitely interesting.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We are gonna wrap in a minute. But yeah, Argraw, thanks for calling back again for the second week, and you're always welcome to call in. Know that, okay?
No problem. Hey, thanks.
All right. Talk to you next time. Awesome. And then Tim, as we know, we've got the Trojan Show every Sunday night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. So everybody should check that out. And I think that the one with Matt Zemek has been moved to tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, right? Yeah, and I'm sure if they're keeping the same 8 Pacific, 11 Eastern, but I think that might be the case. Yeah, they're watching. Well, I'm watching it, but they're also watching the championship game.
Oh,
they moved it back one day.
Moved to Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I just checked the community, Mark's community notes for that. So yeah, check that out tomorrow, 8 Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and then the Trojan Show every Sunday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Right?
Yeah, welcoming everybody, haters and lovers. Come on, check it out. We are going to be covering the Big Ten schools probably in about 2 weeks. So if you're there and you're representing in the chat, maybe you guys will be one of the first teams we take. We're going to try to grab some media from all around the Big Ten country to come talk about your guys' teams, chop it up, talk about a little bit of the history between USC because of those Rose Bowls. And quite frankly, just a lot of regular season games we played together. There's a lot of history between USC and a number of the Big Ten schools. So I can't wait. I can't wait till we join you guys. I can't wait to get to the big house, John. I'm sure I'm going to meet you there. That'll be
absolutely awesome. Absolutely. And hey, we got a really nice comment from Shoelace here. Nice super chat. So we appreciate you, Shoelace.
Yeah, Shoelace is awesome, man. He's been supporting the show forever. Nice guy. I don't know. Hey, Shoelace, how come you don't call in more often? We could have a conversation about Sooners. We can mix it in. Hey, here's the thing. There are some crazy USC fans. And there are some crazy Sooner fans, but I find the majority of the fans on both sides are actually really good fans and know football. So anytime you get a chance, I hope you can come join us, Shoelace.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, not a big fan of being live on air. I get that, and it took me a little while too because I heard all these. It was like two something years ago. I started calling in, but it's a little intimidating because you got people who really know what they're talking about, and it's like. It can be tough. So, you just got to muster up that courage, if you want to do that, but you also we also appreciate super chats. We appreciate chilling in chat and talking and all of that too. So, however you feel comfortable supporting the show, we love that.
Yeah. You got to remember also just one more thing, and John and I will explain. Nobody listens to us. You guys are all in the chat talking to each other. So really we're just up here talking. And if you come and join us, it's really just talking to us. Nobody's paying attention to us out there. All they're doing is talking to each other, arguing in the chat. So if you're worried about other people, oh my God, I want people, mess up. First off, everyone messes up, so just come and have fun. But the other part is nobody, and I mean this, nobody's paying attention. It's kind of like you those presentations in class. Like,
right.
They're all looking through their notes. They're not paying attention to a word you're saying. So that's exactly what happens in the chat. Everyone's just talking in the chat, and we're just up here talking to each other. So please come in, join us. And that goes for everyone out there. You know, this is a call-in show, and if you get the same faces, you know, it's not as exciting. When you get new people in here, that's the way to go.
Absolutely. And Jason's, our buddy Jason's backing you up there. So yeah, call in if you want. Otherwise, you know, talk in chat or talk in our Discord chat. If you're a Patreon member, you know, that's also really appreciated. I'm going to be putting a question to everybody after I'm done here, so that everyone can contribute to the, you know, who they think the leaders and best of the Michigan spring game were. And we're going to be taking that feedback and including it on the Wednesday show, which I'm excited about.
So I've asked, I texted Mark saying that I think for this, so we have Michigan in there. I think the requirement to have your team up there is your team has to have won at least 7 national championships. So that'll narrow down the field a little bit.
Wow. Okay.
I made that rule up. Mark's not going to agree with it. I just thought
fair enough. All right, Tim. Well, thanks for calling and providing that Trojan perspective.
Is that what it was? Okay. All right. Take care.
All right. Talk to you later. All right. Let's wrap things up here. And we got a couple more comments. Like you said, yeah, people like to talk to each other in chat, and I'll pull up some of the comments that are a little bit more relevant. Michael, if you want to send that our way, I just had up from the Notre Dame website the roster, but that's basically, you know, number 0 through number 99 in offense and defense in a list. So if you have the projected roster, send that our way, and we'll and you know, next time, you know, feel free to call in to Mark's shows as well, and you can talk Notre Dame offensive roster, and anything else you guys want to talk about as well, since that'll be a little sooner than next Monday. Let's see. Yeah, 2006 game, that was a big one. 2022 was also pretty big. I believe it was number 2 OSU, number 3 Michigan, and it was 11-0 versus 11-0. So that was, I would say, one of the biggest games for sure, and that one went to the University of Michigan. So we got one too. All right, y'all. Let's see. We got anything else here I want to cover? We've got the merch store. We talked about that. The Amazon link. When you're shopping on Amazon, they make $1.7 trillion. And Voice of College Football is right there at $1.3 trillion. So if you use the Amazon link in the description section of the videos, it only takes you 2 seconds to click that link when you're shopping on Amazon. You don't have to get the product that is displayed. You can literally just get whatever you need for your life or presence or whatever the case may be. But when you click that link, then Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, gets a little kickback. And you know, I think that's the least we can do when we're, you know, when Mark is spending all of this time getting all of these great channels and content and guests and everything that he does every day. The least we can do is like the videos, hit the Amazon link, 2 seconds. It costs you nothing to us to do that. If you're going to be shopping on Amazon anyway, you might as well. Those are just kind of the really basic ones. Where do I send the roster? I'm not sure if you're a member of the Discord, Patreon. If you're not, you could just DM it to me at John Diadamo. So I'll post my banner here. There it is. JOHNDADAMO. Just DM it to me on Twitter. If you don't use Twitter, and email it, I'll send you that too if you want. That was a big one. I believe though that Georgia was 1, OSU was 2, Michigan was 3, I think. So 2006 from a ranking perspective was still a smidge higher if you're going by straight rankings. But last year was real big. Last year was real big. In Columbus, everybody thought Ohio State was going to win that game. I've even thought, until I changed my prediction the day before. Okay, I had Ohio State winning by 3 in Columbus until the day before, and I changed it to a Michigan prediction. Just felt like the perfect storm was happening again. And it turned out that's exactly what happened. But yes, absolutely. Yeah, Georgia was number 1. And I'm sure if a Damn Beast Media is still in here, he'd back that up too. Georgia's been number 1. He's a really great obviously, Georgia is the number 1 team in college football, has been the last couple of years. So, yeah, the 06 one was still a little bit bigger, but yeah, 22 was very highly rated in terms of the ratings and everything else. And that's going to do it for us tonight. I think we had some really good comments. We had some really good, robust discussion on the call-in show and people calling in. Don't forget that this Wednesday, coming up at 5 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be awarding the spring game leaders and best on Michigan Wolverines Live. And then I'll be back with you as well next Monday, 6 p.m. with Mark Rogers, 8 p.m. with me, and we'll be back again. So come on back and join us. Also, don't forget that tomorrow at noon is the SEC Live show. So if you're into talking SEC football, Mark gets a lot of really strong media guests for that one. I mean, literally, you get a guy from Auburn, you might get a guy from Arkansas, and it's perspectives that you don't normally hear from when you're consuming your media. At least I don't. So it's really, I will be on there. I have a couple weeks off of my full-time gig, so I will definitely show up tomorrow at noon and help out as well, however Mark needs me to, and we should have some good perspectives. And this will be the last thing I take. Our friend Antoine, relative to all the talent OSU has amassed over the years, do you think OSU has lived up to their talent winning championships? So as in, do I think that they are that they've lived up to like the last couple of years? Have they lived up to the hype, or have they lived up to what their talent is on the results on the field? And to that I say, well, they have Ryan Day has 2 Big Ten losses in his whole career. They're to Michigan, but that's it. 2. That's pretty good. He won a playoff game. I have him neck and neck with Jim Harbaugh as the top of the Big Ten. And I do factor in postseason, and let's face it, Ryan Day has done better in the postseason by far than Jim Harbaugh has done. With all of their recruiting years. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've lived up to what Urban did. The recruiting has still been good in some areas, like wide receiver, quarterback. In certain areas, they've been really, really strong. But Michigan is starting to gain on them in recruiting. Michigan has got a player, a 4-star running back that Ohio State wanted. Every Ohio State person who's in the know that I've talked to has said, we wanted this guy. And so you can say you didn't want him all you want. They wanted him, and Michigan picked him up. Michigan's going to pick up another one from Ohio, Robinson, in the next week or two, defensive player. And yeah, I think Jim Harbaugh has done more with less. Absolutely. Absolutely. He comes in, remember, 5-7 in 2014. The locker room, a mess. We had the whole thing with the Shane Morris concussion. Dave Brandon was selling Pepsis with the tick. It was bad, folks. I went to college and I had just graduated, and I was suffering through that last year, and it was grim. Okay. And Jim Harbaugh comes in, immediately makes it a 10-win program. Year 1, takes the backup at Iowa and turns him into a stud. And then he goes and actually has an NFL career. The backup at Iowa Jake Rudock. Okay. In 2016, he's a play away from the playoffs. In 2017, any other quarterback other than O'Korn beats Ohio State. You can just count the almosts and then find. That's why I thought it was only a matter of time before the almosts became reality. And in 2021, the almosts finally became reality. Jim Harbaugh just went back to his Stanford 2009 playbook and was successful. Whereas Ryan Day inherited a Cadillac. He did. He inherited a Cadillac. He inherited a program. And what I think Ryan Day did from a positive perspective is he saw, okay, why aren't we winning postseason games? Let's enhance our passing ability. Let's bring in 5-star wide receiver talent. I thought that was a smart move. And it showed in the Georgia game why he did that. Okay? It almost worked. They were literally one midnight kick from winning the title. Let's be real, because they would have stomped TCU. So I think Ryan Day decided, let's maybe move away from all the focus on the rivalry and let's put some emphasis on postseason. The problem is that allowed Michigan to then say, well, we're going to go all in on the rivalry. And what are you doing to beat Ohio State today? And all of that mentality. And I think that's why you've seen now the tide turning a little bit in those games. And you kind of have to win that game to win the Big Ten title, to win the Big Ten championship. So that's a big one. Yeah. 4 SEC teams. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The SEC, look. Yeah. The SEC is, like I've said before, and, you know, Darrell and I have gone back on this. I've never argued. The top 2 of the SEC is still better than the top of the Big Ten based on results on the field. But what this postseason showed and what the performance on the field has shown the last couple of years is that where before the gap was here, now the gap is here. It's getting closer. Okay? And I do think we're going to get to the point where it's here. And once it's here, Big Ten's going to win a natty once in a while. That's all I'm saying. It's close. It's close. And the bottom, like, let's face it, Vandy, okay, Kentucky's not very good. There are teams at the bottom, and there are teams at the bottom of the Big Ten. You got your Rutgers, you got your Illinois, Purdue's probably going to drop. So I'm just saying, it was here, now it's here. Maybe it gets here, and then once in a while the Big Ten wins a natty. That's all. Okay. That's it. We're done. Kentucky isn't very good. No, you just got stomped by Iowa. Okay? No, they're not very good. All right, but you know we love you anyway. So don't forget, speaking of the SEC, tomorrow at noon, the SEC live show. Check it out. USC will then be at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific with Mark and Matt Zemek. And until next time, thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you Wednesday on Michigan Wolverines Live.